Sound check. Okay. Okay, so thank you very much to everyone who has joined us today. I hope you can hear me okay. Welcome to the Partner Talk series by ApprovalMax. Today we will be looking at into a Xero-based application stack that takes care of financial management and budget control for schools and colleges. So as some quick housekeeping note, this webinar is being recorded, and we will be sharing the link to the recording shortly after the webinar. So let me do the introductions. So my name is Marika Zlova, and I'm head of marketing at ApprovalMax. We also have as a co-host Helmut Heppner. Hello, Helmut.
Hello, everyone.
Helmut is director of operations at ApprovalMax, and he will be helping us with the Q&A session. As our very special guests, we also have Sandy Dunn and Melanie Morris today. So hello, Sandy. We can't hear you. You're on mute.
Yep. Hi, everybody. Yeah. Good to see you. Hopefully there's lots of our friends out there. Kia ora.
And also we have Melanie Morris. So hello, Mel.
Hiya, kia ora.
Yeah, just to give some additional background information on our guest speakers today and their businesses. So Solutions and Services is the New Zealand-based financial service provider that takes care of financial services for over 300 schools in the New Zealand, and that has been providing services for over 27 years. In 2016, Solutions and Services developed the certified Xero application Monty for New Zealand schools, budgeting and reporting after introducing Xero to their schools in 2014. Monty is now used by over 400 schools in New Zealand, so which is totally incredible. Melanie joined Xero as New Zealand head of bookkeeping in 2016 after a varied and successful work journey, and also led her to found Bookkeeping and Beyond, Xero New Zealand Gold Partner, and Training and Beyond companies, both multi-award-winning businesses. As a small business owner herself, Melanie understands common pain points and works to create efficiencies and better workflows using software solutions, giving businesses back time and positively impacting cash flow. So moving on, let's take a look at the agenda. So today we will start by talking about the key goals in school financial management in New Zealand, and the focus will be on process automation for such essential activities as budgeting, spend control, and reporting, considered as an end-to-end process. And the key part of the webinar, of course, will be the demo. So we will be looking at Xero, Hubdoc, ApprovalMax, and Monty as the preferred Xero app stack used by Solutions and Services. Really looking forward to it. As for the questions, we will have a dedicated Q&A session at the end of the webinar after the demo. However, should you have any questions as we speak, please use the Q&A bar at the bottom of the menu, and we will be picking up relevant questions as we speak, and we will be surely answering all your questions after the demo part. So before we start, let me ask, we take a very quick one-question poll. Helmut, please, can you take a lead?
Yes, thank you very much. Okay. So you should now see a poll on your screen, and we would like to ask you which of these tools you are already using. It's a multiple choice. So if you are using some of the tools, you are welcome to click more than once. Thank you very much for your active participation. I see the choices coming in. Let's give it another few seconds before we share the result. Okay, has anyone made his choice? Good, thank you very much for voting to this poll. And let's share the result. So it is not surprising. 100% of our attendees are already Xero users. We see a high percentage of attendees also using Hubdoc. ApprovalMax has some room for improvement, while Monty is very well adopted. Great job, Sandy. Thank you very much for voting, and I give it back to Maria.
Yes, thank you very much. And it certainly gives a better idea for us of our today's audience. So let us begin. Understanding financial management objectives cannot be done without understanding local challenges by particular organizations. And by global account, New Zealand is way ahead in terms of digital transformation and the move from paper to fully digital operations. So let me invite Mel to comment on the current challenges, goals, and objectives in school financial management in New Zealand. So Mel, over to you.
Thanks, Maria. I've got to say that it was a big thrill to see 100% Xero users out there. Well done, everyone. Thank you very much. What we've seen at Xero is that schools are systematically moving towards the cloud, and they finding that that is part of their charter goals, of course. They're looking to bring their accounts in-house in some situations while still having the support of the professionals. And of course, using Xero, they can have that collaboration in there. And we're also seeing that schools are sort of losing the file servers sitting out the back as well. So embracing the cloud, we're seeing it a lot, and you know, it's all part of the future of real-time accounting and other results and reporting. So really, when we're thinking about the schools, we're thinking about the app stack today, you know, we're thinking about efficiency, we're talking about streamlining, and part of the financial goals, you know, when you have your, you know, your board of trustees there is to see what's actually happening in the school and have that oversight and overview. So to be able to report in this manner is going to be really useful at the board of trustees meetings. And we also know that there's the desire to inform the budget holders of where we are, where they are, and making sure that we're all on the same page. And as you'll be well aware in the audience, that it is a requirement that the schools are audited each year. So by utilising this solution, of course, you're going to be ready, much more ready for that audit, because all the information will be at your fingertips. Thank you, Maria.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much, Mel. So now let's take a closer look at the function components of the cycle. So a way to think about it is to see these activities like defining budgets, bank control, reporting, not as standalone activities, but rather as codependent operations that are impactful to each other. So for example, you cannot be approving purchase orders or bills without understanding the budget balance. Or when you do reporting at the end of the year, so this data is basically data feed to how you think about the budget for the next year. So Sandy, I think it's time we reach out to you and ask for your experience here. So do you see it the same way? Does it work similarly in your activities, if you could comment?
Yes, it does. In some schools, it's been quite a distinct process. The budget's been worked on, and then there's been a massive an upheaval in the school to try to get to the point of having everything ready each month. So what we're trying to do is have a continuous cycle, and I think that's really important, that as much as possible is automated. There's really good visibility for everybody, and everyone's aware of where things are at in terms of control, and the reporting is going to lead to the budget planning again. So it's a continuous cycle, and everybody's up to date as much as possible.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it seems like it's really so it works the same way, and that only proves the point that it makes total sense to consider those activities as codependent, and also proves the point that you do need a pre-integrated app stack that takes care of the end-to-end process to ensure that you do not have data fallout, that you minimize manual interventions, that you have no breaking points in your critical business critical operations. Okay, so thank you very much for that. Let me switch to our next slide. I think Sandy, it's back to you. So please talk about the app stack as you're using, and yeah, over to you.
Okay, thank you, and thank you for that great graphic. I think that really explains it. We are very excited about the efficiencies that we've seen with schools that have implemented the app stack. Those schools have now got very advanced systems. The buy-in from staff and the feedback's been really positive. All the tools link together and they sync with Xero beautifully. That's your tagline. It really is our recommended stack of tools for school financial management. We chose Xero in 2014 as the cloud accounting system that we would support, and we're thrilled that we did. It's easy to use, easy to train, suits various types and sizes of schools that we work with. Great support, constant development. It's at the forefront of cloud accounting, and it actually makes accounting fun. People tell us that. It links well with most of the commonly used student management systems in New Zealand, and we've developed training resources to suit schools. Hubdoc was a superb move by Xero this year to include it as a tool within Xero, and made us very excited when this occurred. It saves immense time in automating payables, which are the bulk of the time created for schools in terms of managing their transactions. They've got large numbers of budget holders and large numbers of suppliers. Coding's quick. The AI or the machine learning in Xero kicks in fast and saves time. There are automatically set up folders by supplier, and the filing's amazing, and you can customize tag folders. So that gives you a third dimension, real bonus. It's basically an electronic file. You can do more than upload bills. So people need to see the power in that. I see lots of potential for saving time with accounts preparation and for audits. Source documents are attached to transactions more quickly than the clever way Xero already had. Searching's excellent and fast, very powerful. And then we met ApprovalMax, and that's the new addition to the app stack for us, creating great excitement because it allows electronic approvals. So ApprovalMax automates the process. Just saving in a transaction in Xero with awaiting approval status kicks in the routing process in ApprovalMax instantly. The school can set up and change the approval workflow as needed, and we saw this flexibility used a lot in lockdown and our move through the New Zealand status levels when people had to look at the delegations they had and the approvals and what they needed. Financial controls can be set up to mirror the school's financial policy and their schedule of delegations. New staff are really easy to add. And I think the biggest thing to consider is that teachers are such busy people, and providing them with the efficiency to manage this administration task, just to be able to approve or reject a bill, is such a huge advantage. So as a result, the finance team don't spend time chasing paper and hassling staff, which they've been doing for a long time, too long. And then, being very biased, Monty completes the app stack. We developed Monty in 2016, and it covers the budgeting and reporting needs for schools. Budgets can be entered for balance sheet codes, which was a big gap before. Schools need to enter budgets for fixed assets, for the use of the cyclical maintenance provision, for repayments of liabilities, furniture and equipment, equity grants. They can't just operate on an operating budget. The school has access to management reporting and Kiwi Park reporting. Mapping's really easy. So we don't regret the investment at all. And we've had wonderful developers selected from many recommended by Xero. So Monty makes budgeting reporting easy and quick, saving lots of time. Especially the most popular feature probably is emailing reports to budget holders in seconds. Some say that saves them 5 to 8 hours a month in some schools. And we've added features suggested by users and our team after evaluation, so we can say that there's been bottom-up development. So to us, the app stack is the answer for schools, and we're seeing great interest and schools really appreciating the benefits and telling each other. It keeps extra users out of Xero, which is the accounting application. There's internal control considerations to think about there. And some schools might actually need to review their finance policy when they introduce the full app, because it changes the way they work, all for the better. I couldn't honestly be more enthusiastic about it. I thank you for your help in bringing this webinar to fruition too.
Our pleasure and our honor, absolutely. Thank you very much for covering the app stack in such detail. Actually, we have a couple of slides dedicated to each app, so I'll be still moving on to them, but Mel and Henry, please let me know if we want to spend time there. So the next one is actually the mapping. Cindy, do you want to spend some more time on this slide, talking about which application covers what functionality within this end-to-end cycle?
So typically a school would develop their draft budget in Excel and then enter it into Monty for reporting. But now what we're seeing is more schools budgeting directly into the simple Monty screen. We've added the ability to bring in comparative budgets as a guide, so they can see many factors come into play there, but they've got that information. They've got actuals year to date that they can pull in if they want to compare and guide estimates. Operating and capital budget figures can be entered, and the budget can be revised for management reporting, although the approved budget has to be used for the annual accounts. Then budget holders would be advised of their budget limits and delegations approved. So that's the next stage of the cycle. And then all through this, data is captured and coded using Hubdoc, the link with the student management system, and reconciled in Xero. ApprovalMax kicks in and automates the approval process right through. And ideally, staff would reconcile daily, and there's a real increase in efficiency that we've seen. Everything's transparent and visible. And it sounds simple, but once the calendar month's complete and the reconciliations are finalised, the budget holders can be emailed in seconds. They get reports that show budget spend and the revenue and any revenue achieved, so they've got percentages they can follow, and they get a full listing of all their transactions. They can have reports for the month or for the year to date. And we think that our solution covers the need for schools to have their management reporting suiting their unique situations and the myriad of readers and the various levels of financial understanding in schools, as well as completing the compliance needs that they have. So it's just a continuous cycle now, and if we can achieve all of that, then we're all on the right road.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you very much. And still, let me invite that all of us that we take a look at the application. Mel, handing it over to you. If you could cover Xero and Hubdoc for us, please.
Absolutely, and Sandy doing a great job of detailing this. There's a few questions that are coming through as well on the Q&A, and I just want to point out they're probably going to be answered in the demonstration portion, so we'll keep them there for the moment. But hey, 100% of you are on Xero, fantastic. So you do understand that it's an online cloud accounting platform, which means that it can be accessed from anywhere, anytime. We've got the user roles in there for collaboration, different permissions that different people can have, which is why this app stack is also exciting with the ApprovalMax as well. You know, it's real time. Essentially, it's just the bank transactions that are downloaded into Xero, and Xero will capture the financials. So as you'll see in the demonstration, the steps to get through to the financials will be streamlined for you. Yeah, and I just think, you know, having it on the cloud, having it in real time, having anyone with a user permission be able to do their part, it means we're all working together and we're streamlining, we're getting some beautiful financials at the end of it. So yeah, Xero's very glad to
Very
be here
beautiful.
today. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you very much. So Hubdoc, yeah, it's also over to you, Mel.
Yeah, so Hubdoc was really exciting for us at Xero. We acquired that a wee while ago now, and we launched it in New Zealand on Valentine's Day last year. So it showed the love for the Hubdoc. That was a great marketing campaign. But anyway, Hubdoc has been a real game changer. You know, talk about machine learning. We talk about, you know, streamlining our work processes. But when we talk about the machine, it literally does read. So you can use your phone. You can just take a photograph of the receipt. So if there's any principals out there or other staff members that are out and about, getting supplies and using the school credit card, for example, you can just take a receipt as you are there in the store or on the conference, and they will automatically go into Hubdoc, and Hubdoc will read it. They'll read the contact, they'll read the invoice number if there is one. They will, it will then take the GST treatment there, and as Sandy will show you, it will then come through into Xero. So, you know, it's pretty powerful compared with the olden days of having to, you know, put data entry into the computer and then, you know, maybe taking a photograph and emailing it to somewhere and then uploading, downloading, etc. So, you know, it's a really powerful tool, and the filing, you know, the document storage and filing is amazing. You'll see when we do the demo that there is really good search functionality in there, and, you know, it means that we can have everything in one place. It doesn't necessarily need to be financials. It can also be other documentation for the school, and we also have user permissions in there. So it's interesting, we could have lease agreements in there and contracts, not just receipts and bills. So over to you, back to you, Maria. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mel. Yeah, time to look at ApprovalMax. Now that we heard a little bit about ApprovalMax, so Helmut, let me hand it over to you actually. If you could cover ApprovalMax for us, please.
Yeah, very short. So ApprovalMax is a solution which helps to automate accounts payable and accounts receivable integrated to Xero. And ApprovalMax facilitate multi-role, multi-tiered approval workflows, and is integrated to Xero, providing source functionality for Xero-based financial documents. We allow to route approvals automatically based on defined criteria and business rules. So every stakeholder, budget holder can be automatically involved and assigned approval requests. The approvals can be made seamlessly either on a native smartphone app on a mobile device, or in a web app, or with directly out of the email when receiving the email notifications. ApprovalMax generates automated audit trails and keep those audit trails in a so-called audit report, which is available to be reviewed in ApprovalMax, but it also will be attached to the corresponding item in Xero. So the audit information, who has approved what and when, and any discussion taking place around these approvals will be available either in ApprovalMax or in Xero. Many schools are using ApprovalMax to have internal controls in place on the spendings. Most of schools who are using ApprovalMax are concentrating on bill approvals, so using it mostly for approving supplier invoices, but there are also some schools who are starting the accounts payable process and the controls with rising purchase orders, creating purchase orders directly in ApprovalMax instead of using paper, approving it in ApprovalMax, and when the related supplier invoice comes in, the bill will be able to be matched against the purchases So you have essentially a wider control on the entire accounts payable, starting from the purchase to the ready for payment bill. Yeah, ApprovalMax essentially helps to increase the accuracy of spending data. It makes sure that all the documents are properly coded, and it helps to validate all the documents by the budget holder and make sure that we have well-prepared data for the next steps in the cycle. And when it comes to reporting to the stakeholders and the budget holders. Back to Maria.
Thank you very much, Helmut. That's been fantastic. And now it's Monty time. So Sandy, let me hand it over to you. We're very, very, very good on time. I think we have like 5 minutes left to cover Monty, and then like 25 minutes for the demo. So yeah.
Okay, I'll be quick. So basically what's on screen are the main reasons why we set up Monty and why schools like using it. The chart and transactions are synced overnight, but you can sync at any time. It only takes a few seconds. We've got very flexible grouping, so the school can set up their own groupings, and then all of their codes can be easily mapped to the Ministry of Education Kiwi Part categories. So that's a big plus. It's very efficient for annuals and audit. In terms of the full budget entry, we've talked about that already today. And so the added tools that we've put in and the new development that we're doing this year are a big help. And the swift management reporting, people just now, they wanted easy, fast reports, not having to choose lots of different defaults, and being able to drill down from a summary report to a group level report to account code level, and the fast emailing of reports where you can send them in seconds to all the budget holders and be quite flexible with the codes that you want each person to be able to look at. And I had a great quote given to me yesterday by a business manager in a school. He said that Monty had revolutionised the way that they reported and the understanding amongst their budget holders. So I've actually got that pinned on my wall at the moment. That's a great one. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. And now that we have covered the theoretical part, thank you very much to Nell, Sandy, and Helmut to you. So I think I'll stop sharing the screen at this moment. Let me check. Yeah, so it's the demo part, the most anticipated part. Sandy, handing over the control to you. So I'm stopping sharing the screen and stopping my video. It's all you. Then over to you, Sandy.
Right, I hope you can hear me well, and I'll need to keep this relatively brief. So what I'm going to do is a demo showing our recommended app stack, and that's going to involve end-to-end bill processing from invoice capture to bill authorization, budget setup and reporting. Been a huge increase in this with staff working remotely. It's all about saving time, being paperless, having less of a pipeline, less delays. It's easier for everyone, and much more visibility right through to the audit process. So I'm going to start in Xero, the cloud accounting app, and I'm using Rose Street demo data. This is our demo data that we use for training and with our staff. Xero's got brilliant links with Kmart, Edge, and the other SMSs for managing all that myriad of high volume and low value transactions that schools have. Easy bank recs, payment batches, the drill down feature's great. The status of the bills in Xero, so coming back to the bill process, is very clear in Xero. So if I come into bills you need to pay, we've got several stati. We've got from draft to awaiting approval, awaiting payment, and then paid in this tab here with a highlight if anything's overdue. So it's very visible. What I'm going to do is start a little bit at the other end really, and I'm going to choose a bill that's been entered in here for awaiting payment, and it's actually going to show you the end result. I think that's quite important. So if I click on this bill, on our IT support company, our own one. It's showing as awaiting payment, and up here we've got 2 PDFs. We've got one showing the audit report by ApprovalMax, so this is automatically pinned onto the transaction, very clear for the auditor to see the details of the transaction, the coding, the tax, and the approvals. You'll see my name appear a lot in here because to demonstrate, I've made myself a budget holder and a requester and a principal today. So all of that information is saved, as well as the invoice for the school. And down at the history in Xero, you can see very clearly. So if I come down a little bit further, you'll see that the bill, the invoice came in through the Xero API from Hubdoc. The invoice was attached. It was then coded and received through Hubdoc. And then ApprovalMax attached the approval audit report. So it's very clear, the trail, and very tight. And in terms of internal control, using the app stack keeps extra users out of Xero. Then I'm going to jump directly to Hubdoc here and open up Hubdoc. I can sign in with single sign-on, which is a really good feature now. We're just developing that in Monty. It's ready, but I didn't want it deployed this week with this big webinar on. So what I've got on screen is the invoice that I had accessed in Xero, but I'm now looking at it in Hubdoc. And just to give you a little bit of a guide in here, what we suggest is that the school's user always clicks on review when they first come in. You've got less to look at then, so it's like showing you a small amount of work to do and a bit more positive. And then on the left-hand side, we've got folders. So very cleverly, we've talked about that. Hubdoc automatically creates a folder for each supplier. So all of your transactions are automatically listed in there for you. You don't do a thing about it, it just happens. And you can also set up your own tags. So you can set up a tag for anything you want to keep filed. And as Mel said, you've basically got an electronic filing system. So it's a really important feature and very valuable for busy people. You've got a great search up here. So I know I've got some accounts from our rubbish people. If I choose bin and click on all, any transaction that's got that word in it shows up. Now that's very powerful for schools when they have so many activities going on. So the way you enter your data makes a difference to how much you can see quickly. Anyway, what I'm going to do now is to show you a couple of the transactions. This blue star invoice here, that's come in from Hubdoc. That's my taxi trip from going up to see people in Auckland last week. And then if I come into this one, this is Rosie's print. So we've created an invoice here to bring in. The invoices, very cleverly, you can ask all of your suppliers to send all their invoices directly to that address. That's your Hubdoc address for your school. You can also copy the address to the clipboard, make a contact in your emails, and just have, you can forward the bills. You don't open them, you just forward the email straight to that address. If people give you invoices by hand, you can scan them to one PDF, click on this button, and they will all separate and pour in here into your review column. The triangle means you've got something to do with that transaction. And as Mel mentioned, anyone with a credit card or anyone who regularly gives you small little squitty invoices to deal with, ask them to download the mobile app for Hubdoc. It's so quick to use, really efficient. And the other thing that you can do is you can log in and add an account and link into the telcos, the power companies in New Zealand, OfficeMax, BidFood, and you can register and have all of the transactions, all the source documents just automatically come into Hubdoc for you. So lots of time saving. Any invoice, you can click on to the notes. You can add a note that will be saved against that invoice for you. You've got a save button over here. And if you want to tag it, so if I come back to that invoice, if I want to say that that belongs in my library resources tag, I just click on that and hit enter twice and it's tagged. You can have multiple tags. Very clever. But the main action in order to process this bill is that we go across to edit document. And what Hubdoc does very cleverly and a lot better than email bill from email bill from email, I can't remember the words, in Xero, is it chooses so much of the data and fills in the data fields for you. You've got choices here of using the extracted amount or the 15% GST on expenses, or changing it to no GST if you need to. And down here, because we've used this firm before, this configuration panel already opens up, and the real trick is to use the status of awaiting approval, because awaiting approval allows ApprovalMax to automate that process. So by choosing awaiting approval, filling in my code directly coming from my chart of accounts, so library resources are fixed assets, and I don't need to use tracking. In my view, tracking slows down the data entry process. You don't need to use customer necessarily in a school. It's really great for tradespeople or businesses if you're on charging, and then put in your description. The last time I used this firm, that was my description. So if I now want to say that these are junior section books, I can put that in, and then I can click publish all, or I can click publish and proceed. Publish and proceed would move me on one. And I just want, before I go, to pick another invoice before I move on. I haven't used this firm before, so I have to open the configure box, and I'd like you to know that you should use auto sync with caution. Unless it's going to be the same code and the same description every time, we would recommend you just hit save configuration and left it at that. So now that I've published that, that invoice, it's gone straight to Xero. So if I go and click back on Xero here and come back to the dashboard, and then come back to bills you need to pay. So now under awaiting approval, if I come in here, I can see these invoices here. So there's my Rosie's print invoice there. It's only got one PDF on it. It's actually showing just the invoice now because it hasn't yet been approved. But what has happened is that we've moved it. So we've got awaiting approval, and now by going to ApprovalMax, we're going to kick in the approval process and have that come through. So I'm going to click into ApprovalMax and then choose login with Xero, single sign in again, come in, and you'll see what an easy option it is for teachers and budget holders. Once you've added your users and invited them, teachers and budget holders in the school, so property officers, people running the canteen, parents managing sports events for you, could be a budget holder if you wanted, students on a committee, as long as they've got an email address and you're following your schedule of delegations. So I've got decisions required here, and these are my invoices that I should be dealing with today. Some of them have got older dates because this is demo data. But all I have to do is click approve if I'm happy. I can see the detail of the coding. I can see the trail of approvals down here, what this school is expecting. This is very flexible. It can be adapted for each school. I can also, depending on my position, I can reassign the request to another approver. And if I click on here, I can actually see the bill, and I see it side by side or full screen, either way. So it's very visible for the people needing to approve. If I'm happy with that, I just have to click approve, that's it. And then I've got my next bill up here as well. So this is library book editions. These are my picture books. So what I'm going to do is approve that as well and take that through. And then I've got another bill here, which is a smart computers one. What I wanted to show you here is that you've got the option to reject. So if you're going to what I would do is suggest that the budget holders all should put a reason if they're going to reject. They need to tell you why. It might not be their bill. They may not be happy with the work that's been done, or they might be returning the goods. There could be all sorts of reasons. So it's very important that they realise this is the only process they need. There's no more keeping copies, writing lists in their plan books, making Excel lists of everything that they've managed through their own budget. So now that we've got the bill, showing you the bill process and approval in here, I wanted to show you the workflow so that you understand how flexible it is. So to do that, I have to click on the hamburger menu here and come down until I find the Rose Street School and come into approval workflows. So users can choose how much of ApprovalMax they activate. Some schools activate bill review and approval and credit note approval firstly, and others are considering when they move to purchase order. Obviously, there's big numbers of staff to manage in schools. So this is the approval workflow. I'll just make that a little bit bigger. So I've created myself in lots of these positions because it's easier to demonstrate, and some of our team. Normally, I would expect an accounts or a finance email to be here, but very cleverly, any bill in Xero with awaiting approval status is automatically picked up, and then it just gets routed through the various levels in the school. The school can choose the levels, so in some schools they would have a section of budget holders, that's quite common. It may then go to the business manager, but it could also go to a head of department or a head of faculty. And then it may be that the principal needs to approve if it's over a certain amount, depending on the size of the school. Or in a small school, the principal might approve everything. So I've made myself principal here. And you could also add the board chair and say that the only thing the board chair needs to approve is any payments to the principal, which should be the one-up process and would be expected. So it's quite easy to be flexible. You can move these levels around, and in lockdown we saw some schools change that to suit the fact that they were all working remotely and all wanting to avoid paper. Once those steps have been actioned and all those approvals are in place, then the bill is automatically authorised in Xero and it's ready to be paid when that suits. There's two things I want to show you on here. Firstly is the approval matrix. So for every level within the approval workflow, you can set conditions. And so commonly in schools, what they would have is a situation where certain staff are in charge of or have responsibility for various account codes and budgets. So if I come down to mine, I've got someone here who's the head of technology, someone who's in charge of outdoor education, someone who has to approve any capital purchase, and then I've got a list down here which includes library, not only operating but also capital purchases for library, and some maintenance codes. It's very easy to add these, and it's also possible to add restrictions on amounts and to say that someone cannot authorise any payment to themselves. So once that's done, it's just a matter of clicking that, updating the workflow, and all of those rules are in place, and ApprovalMax utilises those criteria when it's dealing with the bill. And all of this happens behind the scenes. And if there are 3 people who should be approving one invoice, they all get emailed and they all do their bit, and it won't move on until that has been completed. The other thing you can do is you can set a time on it, a time limit, which is, people smile when I tell them that they can limit the time and keep reminding people. So that's very important that you understand how flexible that is. And the other thing I want to show you, I'm conscious of how long this demo shouldn't be with the webinar, so I'll just discard that change, come back to the menu and come down and show you in terms of all requests. So this is the listing that you get and a budget holder would see everything that's been dealt with through their account. So if they want to go and look at another bill, they've always got it here and visible. So ApprovalMax has made such a difference. There's the ability to add auditor access level as well, and it's very easy to add users. And some schools will trial it first with a few staff and then roll it out. But we've been extremely grateful to Wellington Girls College, who did the case study, and their enthusiasm for encouraging others. So that pipeline flows, that payment would now be actioned in Xero. So if I come back into Xero and go to awaiting payment, if I've actioned the Rosie's print one, I don't think I have. This is the danger of doing a live demo, isn't it? So I've got decision required, Rosie's print here. So what I'm going to do is approve it in there, and I'll approve a couple of others too while I'm here, just to show you how quick it is. And then I'm going to come back to Xero here and come back through to awaiting approval there, and then awaiting payment. So I'm not really, I haven't done that as well as I should have, but I'll carry on and show you in terms of Monty the next steps. So Monty is an app that syncs with Xero and gives you really easy budget entry and reporting, as you've heard. Once I've logged into Monty here, I've got Rose Street showing. The single sign-on is going to be deployed any minute, and if you want to sync, all you have to do is click on this button here. Monty syncs overnight automatically, but if you've entered transactions during a day, you need to refresh. So you just click the little sync button, or you can go to the setup screen and you can see that your data has been synced and it's stopped rolling in that time that I've been looking. We've got a very simple screen on the side. So we've got a budget button, a reports button, have lots of help in here with really good tip sheets. And when we come and have a look at the budget, this is giving schools flexibility. So they can enter an approved budget, they can have a draft budget prior to that while they're working. If they need to revise it, which has been common this year with COVID, then all they do is rename, because we're going to do a save as and rename, and then we've got a revised budget. All of the codes from Xero come in here automatically. If I had a new code, it would be sitting there to be mapped. The school can choose the groups down here. We would encourage them to lean towards Kiwi Park, of course, as a good example, but they can have net groups, which make more sense to some people in schools. You can see the net result of your trading in your reports, even though that's not the standard revenue and expense type of chart of accounts. So you can be pretty flexible. And when you go to enter the budget, you've got a really simple screen where all you're going to do is type in and move down the screen. You've got the ability to add notes. You can add a comparison budget if you want to. So I want to have a look at my 2020 approved budget while I'm working in here. And I can also pull in actuals. So what I'm going to do is pretend that I'm going to start working on my 2021 budget, which some schools will be doing quite soon. So this is going to be a draft budget for 2021. I just click OK. And this will create a copy for me. So this is my budget here. And I want to show my 2020 revised budget, which is the closest information to be helpful to me in terms of budgeting for next year. And I'm going to show my actuals, and I've reconciled July, although I haven't finished perhaps all of the creditors for July, and bring in the actuals. So you can work on screen on your budget with notes. You can export the budget to Excel, enter figures for the budget without changing anything on the template, and import it back. So that's a quick way for big schools. And our next development is the ability to output this and get an operating budget, capital budget, and a cash budget summary an annual one. And then once the budget has been entered, you go straight to reports, and as long as all of your codes are met, the monthly management summary report will give you the ability to choose which month you want to report on. You've got a percentage of financial year here as a guide for the board. When you are looking at the reports, you can choose whichever month you want. And when I choose, I update depending on which budget I want to report against. I've got a statement of comprehensive revenue and expense on screen with very helpful percentages down the side to guide me. I've got a balance sheet immediately under that, a statement of financial position with the working capital, the most important figure for them to be watching. And if for any reason the net assets and public equity don't balance, then the school would get a big red warning up here, and it normally means they haven't mapped a new code. And then because we might have queries about some of these percentages down below our balance sheet, a bit hard on your eyes, sorry, more details at group level. To print the report, I just press End and Export and PDF, and the report appears on screen, and the school can decide how many pages of that report they give the board, or whether they download it and everybody's looking at it through a shared drive or on the screen at the meeting. And the school, if they want to have more detail for the management or a finance committee, depending on the size of the school, they can choose a matching group details report and get the detail by group, but code by code. So any further drill down, you need to go to Xero and look at account transactions. But that's very quick reporting. And then once the month is finished and the board reports are prepared, a school would typically have an administrator come in here and choose to email to budget holders. So they may use activity, department budget holder, possibly faculty. They can choose email, choose the month that they're emailing reports for, select users, click one person, Control A, and send. And everybody gets their report emailed to them instantly. It doesn't matter whether you've got 100 budget holders, as some secondaries do, or 20 in a primary school. And then you can choose department budget holder if you use that. These are groups of codes. Select users, highlight the first person, Control A, and send. Put a message in if you need to tell them to stop spending, or that you're pulling in order books. And then at the end of the year, so that's very quick emailed reporting. You probably want to know what a report looks like. So if I choose activity budget holder report, I'm going to come in here. Jo's in charge of the kapahaka. So this is her report for June with the revised budget there. Most people want to know what's left. So I'm going to put my name in. I'm in charge here and update. I'm in charge of grounds at the moment. So my grounds budget is 16,500. That's what I've spent year to date. That's what's left. And then I can look at each of the transactions for those codes down here and library. I need to show you one more thing, and then I'll stop the demo. We're going to run out of time. And then down at the bottom, we've got the Kiwi Park Auditor Report, which is driven from the category mapping, so that we've got the Kiwi Park category, the schools codes, and the subtotal year-to-date and annual budget. And what we do is we export that to Excel for the auditor, and they can pull that into their programs. So in terms of speed, we've added another report here for the summary report, and that's really a very quick rundown of Monty. So I'll stop sharing and come back to Maria and Helma.
Sorry
if I took longer.
Yeah, it has been fantastic. It has been absolutely fantastic. I know we are very tight on time, so let me actually start sharing again. So I guess it's over to you, right? We need to handle the questions. I know that there is a select list of questions that you want to answer while we're live, so it's back over to you while I'm sharing the screen.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much. Yeah, indeed, we got a couple of questions. So let me ensure you that we will answer all the questions. If we do not cover the questions now live, we will be in touch after the webinar. And for sure, we will answer your questions. So Sandy, the first question is essentially, does Monty include the capacity to use Xero tracking categories?
Yes, it does include the capacity to use tracking to a limited extent. It will produce tracking reports for revenue and expense codes. It's a lot harder to develop tracking reports in Monty for balance sheet codes, but we developed it to allow for tracking with revenue and expense.
Okay, thank you. The next question is also very good. Is Monty exclusive to New Zealand?
Well, we've had interest from Australia and one other country. We haven't actually got a client school in another country as yet, but there isn't any reason for that not to be used. So I'm very keen to work. There's a school that wants to have a trial in September, and we'll start doing that for them and then let people know.
Okay, thank you very much. So the next question from Chris, who is asking, can we input budgets rather than at line by line manually?
Sorry, can you repeat the question, Helmut, please?
Oh, I already closed it. Let me check it.
Sorry.
So the question is, can we input budgets rather than adding line by line manually? I believe it is related to the question if you can import budgets,
yes.
and so how you would handle it.
Yeah. You can enter the budgets on the screen in Monty, as I showed you, or you can export the budget worksheet to Excel. It's very quick. Enter the budgets in there using all of the Excel tools and then import it back. But what you can't do is go adding extra codes or changing the template of the Excel file. I hope that's a good answer.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. Let me go through the one. Okay, there is a very good question. So we got quite a few questions asking about the course of Monty and other tools. We will come to this right before we close our webinar today. One good question is received. Whether can be ApprovalMax used for POs and bills, or can it just be used for bills? And I think I would like to answer these questions. So despite the fact that we have developed some functionality which allows to control the spending by creating purchase orders and approving the purchase before the purchase order is placed with the supplier, and that we are matching supplier invoices against outstanding purchase orders, the workflows itself can be used independently. So you can use just the bill review and approval process, or you can use the entire workflow and the entire flow starting with the purchase orders. It's up to your preferences and to your needs of your organization. Okay, there are a lot of... Yes, thank you. Sandy, you wanted to say something?
Yes, there's some very good questions. There's one from Chris. He's got a small school of 9 pupils and wonders if the app stack would save them time, ease their loads and be cost effective for them. That is a very small school, and I know Chris. Certainly the Hubdoc side of it would help them. I suspect that it would be hard for them to find the budget to have the whole stack though in that answer, but it certainly would save them time. There's a question about whether there is any plan to allow the user to manage the list of groups and summary report headers. We have had people who've requested additional summary report headers. You can definitely manage your own groups, and depending on the request and whether we think other schools would benefit from it, then yes, we're happy to add it. Yeah. There's a question from Alice, that's great, about having a cash sales receipt numbered sequentially in Xero or ApprovalMax, which would replace the need for a receipt book. So it would go through ApprovalMax, go through to ApprovalMax from Xero to be approved by the appropriate budget holder. And this relates to bankings. Unless you've got a quick answer, Helmut, that might take us a little bit longer to research.
Okay, thank you very much. We have essentially a lot of questions received. Let me ensure one more time that we will answer all these questions after the session. And unfortunately, we are running a little bit out of time. So Maria, could you please give me the next slide? And I want to take the opportunity to inform you that we have teamed up with Sandy to put out a special offer and a proposal for the attendees of this webinar. So if you are interested in this app stack and you would like to explore the use of this technology for your own organization, for your own school, you are welcome to sign up using this link approvalmax.com/schools, and you would be entitled to receive a discount for the first 3 months. 50% discount on the subscription fee if you would sign up for any of these tools which we demoed today and talked about by end of September. So sign up by end of September in order to secure 3 months 50% off. Then yeah, I would like to thank you for your attendance and for your interest. And I will be back in touch to answer your questions, and giving back to Maria.
Sure. So we are wrapping up. We're very good on time. So let me extend our greatest thank you to our guest speakers today. So to Mel, to you, to Sandy. It's been amazing, and it's been the best webinar we ever had. So we're absolutely thrilled, and thank you everyone who joined us today. So we very much hope that there's been useful information for you, that you enjoyed the talk, and we absolutely are looking forward to seeing you at our next partner talk that will be coming up. So again, as Helmut mentioned, so we will be reaching out to you with the recording, with the follow-up to the questions, and also mentioning the offer again. So again, thank you very, very much, and see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
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 Thanks.
Yeah.